Should I put it here? Let's try here. Are we recording? Okay. Guess we're recording. Hey, my name is Sierra. I'm 26 years old, and today I'll be talking about my process of purchasing my first home. So first, I'm just going to do a few disclaimers. One, I am not an expert on, the process of purchasing a home. I'm just simply talking about my process, hoping that maybe it can help, someone who's interested or someone who didn't know they should look into buying a home. And lastly, this video will have basically kind of like 3 segments to it. So the first one will be about my process, from beginning to end of me purchasing a home. The second part will be basically like, I guess, a lot of questions that I have gotten, and I want to explain those questions and then give them the answers the best that I know. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I had experience in those, so I just wanted to give those out. And then lastly, I will give you guys a tour of my house. Alright, so I will be talking about, like I said, my frequently asked questions, but I also wanted to do like a kind of like a step process. So I'm going to call it like 10 steps to buying a home. Then I'll go into my frequently asked questions, my Q&A. So the first step I wanted to go into was saving for a down payment. Just, putting any little savings you can into maybe a savings account or maybe a checking account you don't go into often, something that you won't touch. Just, let it accumulate over time. The ideal down payment you want to put in typically is about 20% of the loan amount. So let's say the home was $100,000. 20% of that would be $20,000. That is typically ideal because you're avoiding any extra fees, such as PMI, which is a private mortgage insurance. Private mortgage insurance is from the mortgage company that you will be getting your loan from. That's basically like an insurance from them. But if you put in 20%, you don't have to pay that. A second step I would say would be to figure out how much you can afford and how much house you can afford. And what I mean by that is, let's say you save $1,000 a month. Automatically you say, oh, I can afford a house $1,000 a month. But sometimes you may want to still have a little bit of savings, so you really need to figure out, how much you want to save while in a home. Maybe you only want to pay $800 and save $200, or maybe you want to, pay $500 and save $500. That's just based on your own preference. There are mortgage calculators online that you can use that will, give you different options on what is a good option for you. This is kind of like a bonus step, because I think that's just for anything that you're going into new. Do your research. I mean, even looking at this video, not saying that I have all the answers, but do your research. Just become familiar of this task. This isn't a simple task. See what type of mortgage company you should go into. See how much you can afford. Like I said, see how much down payment is a good amount to save for. See what area you're thinking of living. See what type of area you want to live in, because potentially you're going to be staying here for a while. It's not just a year contract. This is going to be your home, so you want to be able to see yourself in that home and in that city. A third step I would say is to check your credit score. You want to make sure that it's at a good range. That way you can get your interest rate low and you can get a better loan amount. Your credit score is definitely a big part of the mortgage process. What your credit score will consist of is basically your payment history. Are you paying your payments on time? And the amount owed. Do you have a lot of debt from your credit cards, or are you not paying on your card notes? That will go into your credit score. What is your credit history? How long have you had these certain, credits? How long have you had that credit card on your report? How long have you had that card note? Those do play into a part as well. And then any new credit can go into your credit score as well. And then lastly, the type of loans that you have on your credit score. The fourth step I would say is to find the best mortgage company and the best loan amount that you feel fits you. Just because you check into one mortgage company doesn't mean that's the best option. You shouldn't go shopping. It's okay to shop for a mortgage company. I believe within 30 days you can shop for mortgage companies and it won't affect your credit. So just shop around. I would say at least 2 or 3 just to make sure that you're getting the best offer. And then the fifth step would be to get pre-approved. Pre-approval will get you the actual amount that you're able to purchase a home. If you get pre-approved for a $150,000 house, you could check from there down. If you want to do something more, you just have to add extra onto your down payment, but that pre-approval is how much that mortgage company is willing to give you for you to purchase a home. The next step would be to find a realtor. Not necessarily a requirement. You can find homes sold by owner, but realtors do provide information that is not accessible to the public. So they're very informative and they give you listings on homes, connections. I recommend it to first-time home buyers, but if you're experienced with, searching for homes and buying homes, you may have more of a connection to other people, but first-time home buyers, I do recommend a realtor. Next step is the fun part, finding the home. And I would say be picky. This is a home that you're typically going to stay in for quite some time. You don't want to move into a home just because you need to get out. Make a list. In my previous video, I put up a list of things that I wanted to see in a home before I ever made an offer. But just a few things off the top of my head. I wanted 3 bedrooms. Though I am by myself, I wanted to be able to grow into my home and not just be in it for the time being. I wanted to, like I said, grow in the home. As far as structure-wise, I wanted, plumbing updated, my furnace updated, heating. Are the windows good? The foundation of the home, is that okay? Do I hear a lot of creaks? Are there any cracks in the walls? Because that can determine a lot of foundation issues as well. If you see little cracks in the walls or the ceiling, just like I said, be picky. Thoroughly look at that home before you make that offer. Next step is to make that offer. And if that offer is accepted and you're finally in that process, typically you will have to make a deposit for the home. That way you can hold on to your purchase until it's time to close. I personally had to put down $1,000 for my deposit. And what was great about that, it went towards my down payment. So it's not like it was just a loss. It did go towards something. It's just something I had to put in before my closing date. Next step, I believe this is step 9. I'm sorry, I haven't been counting. Step 9 is to get your house a home inspection and appraised. So basically what that is, someone will come into your home once the offer is accepted. They'll look at it, make sure, like I said, the plumbing is good, the furnace is up to date. They will look at those type of details, make sure that your home is livable. What the appraiser would do, they would make sure that the price that you offered on a home is worth that amount. And if they look at the home and they say, I think you're paying a little bit too much, they'll send that to the seller, and typically the seller will have to go down. From my experience, I was paying lower than what the value of the home is. They did let the seller know that, but it wasn't too much to where they felt like they had to deny my offer. And lastly would be the closing date and your paperwork. With my experience, only because mine was during a pandemic, it may be different for other people. My closing documents were sent to me, I believe 2 days before I closed. I closed on a Monday, and I think they were sent to me on Friday. So it was just basically documents for me to look over. It stated how much of a closing cost I had to pay. It stated how much my loan amount was, my interest rate, of course the address that I was purchasing, and just details about what I'm purchasing. They have to give you those documents a couple days before for you to look over. That way you can know what you're signing, because at the closing day you really don't have time to read every detail. You gotta be ready to sign. So you look over those, and then here comes your closing date. There are more papers that you will have to sign, but it is, I don't want to say typical, but my title company did go over what I was signing before I signed them. It was just like, here's your closing documents, here's your tax papers, and she went over it, but I can honestly, like I said, I could honestly not remember half of those papers I signed. But once all those papers are signed, they will make you a copy, and then you're all set. You're finally a homeowner. So those are the steps that I went through. Sure, there are more steps that are into it, but these are the ones that I have experience with and ones I can really give details on. In this next part of this video, I will go into my frequently asked questions, just basically getting more in depth on the type of loans that I was introduced to, and the pros and cons of buying and renting a home. So like I said, this second segment of my video will be just basically just a lot of questions that I've been getting asked, or questions I was asking while making my home process. I do have stuff written down because I don't want to say anything wrong. Like I said, just a few things, and if you have any more questions, like I said, I'm not an expert, but I love researching stuff, so if you have a question, I'll be more than happy to answer. So what I want to do first is talk about conventional versus FHA. So basically what FHA is, it's a little bit more flexible to obtain. It does require a minimum of a 580 credit score. It is a government loan. With that, I believe, and I didn't write this down, but I believe that it doesn't require as much of a down payment from yourself. But if you do not put at least 20% down, then you will have to pay a property mortgage insurance, and I believe that is PMI. So basically what a PMI is an extra insurance that you will have to pay that is not including your home or condo insurance that you will have to pay. It is an additional insurance that you have to pay with your mortgage company. If you do pay over the 20%, you will not have to pay that type of insurance. Also with FHA, you are not able to rent out that property. You have to occupy that home. You cannot rent it out with FHA. If you do so happen to refinance it to a different loan that you could rent, you could do that, but FHA you cannot. I'm not really familiar with refinancing, just because I just bought a home. I'm not looking to refinance anytime soon. So that in that department, I'm not familiar at all with. So with those questions, I probably wouldn't be the best to answer. Now with conventional, the one that I have, it is reserved for buyers with a higher credit score. I believe the minimum for that is 620 is the minimum. With that also, if you put in less than 20% down, you will have to put in the PMI. But once you do get to 20% of making a payment to your loan, that goes away. It is automatic. I believe it's automatic after a certain percent. I believe over 20, so I think like 21 or 22, it will automatically come off. But if you hit 20, and you notice it, you can call and they will take it off, but it won't automatically until you're over 20. So that's it with the conventional FHA. I'm sure there are other loan options, but those are the main two that I was introduced during my loan process, and I don't really want to speak on any ones that I wasn't. So next, I wanted to go into fixed interest rate versus a variable interest rate. And this is the same thing with a credit card if you do have one. A fixed is the same interest rate throughout the entire term of the loan. No matter how long you have that loan, your interest rate will be the same. With variable, it will change. It could change higher, it could change lower. Most time I feel like it's harder to go based on a variable interest rate because you never know when it will change or how much it will change. So I believe fixed is better. Right now I have a conventional fixed 30-year mortgage. The interest rate, I'll tell you if you ask, but I just won't put it in this video. I prefer fixed. Next, I will go into the loan period. So there are other loan periods, but the most common is a 15-year and a 30-year. So the benefits of having a 15-year, of course, is lower interest because you're paying that loan in a short amount of time than 30. But the downfall of having a 15 is the monthly payment will be higher. But at the end of the day, at the end of the 15 years, you'll pay less money. So it's kind of like you're paying more for less at the end. Whereas the 30-year, you have a lower monthly payment. Like I said, I did do the 30. And you do get a bigger tax bracket. I'm not really into taxes, so I won't go deep into that. But you can have a higher interest rate and more money will come out at the end of the day. 30-year. Since I am a solo home buyer, I feel like the 30 was in my best interest just because of the lower monthly payment. I can always refinance to a 15-year, but at this time I'm looking at the 30. All right, and lastly, the most question that I always get, why buy over rent? So I'll just say pros and cons of buying and renting. We'll say that. So I'll go into buying first because that's what I did. So a pro, you can customize your place. You can do anything you want when you buy a home. This wall, this is my my dining room, and you'll see that in the tour later. It did come like this, so I liked it, but you wouldn't see this color in your neighbor's, condo. This is something that they did. This is what they wanted, and I just so happen to like it too. But like I said, in my tour, you will see everything that I changed my way just because I wanted to. I didn't have to ask anyone first. It was what I wanted to do. No one can kick you out. Like, your music too loud, like my neighbors. You have too many guests over, I don't know, I never had that type of issue, but you can't get kicked out of your own house. You have ownership of the property you're living in is another pro, I feel. It allows you to build a second stream of income because potentially, since I do have conventional, I can rent out my property if I wanted to after a couple years of living here, and that could be a second stream of income while still working. Not saying that's what you have to do, but still another source of income, why not? Also another pro, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get to a con. If you do get a fixed rate, you never have to worry about your payments going up. I know with apartments, they sometimes go up every year or they just change. You never get to know how much you're going to pay, when you re-sign your lease, because it just depends on what specials they have. It's not like that when you buy. Every year, same thing. If you get it fixed. Um, yeah, I don't think I wrote a con. But basically, you get more for less. My condo, I have, I believe, close to 1,800 square feet, and I'm sure I pay less than an apartment down on the east side. I think I pay less, honestly. I'm not gonna say how much. If you want to know, um, I'll tell you, but I just won't put it on this video. Whereas an apartment, you'll pay $1,300 for a studio. No, I pay less than that. I'll say that. A con, I would say the con is really just the process, and I can't even speak on everyone's process because I'm sure there's people out there that went smoothly 2-week process. I mean, me, that would be my con. It took me almost 2 years to get to this point. You do need to do more research than what you would have to do for renting. That could be a con, but I didn't mind doing research. I even had to take a course in order to get my type of loan that I had. I had to take a 3-hour course for home ownership, and that was very informational. Things that I didn't even know homeowners did or do. It was definitely something I would recommend since it's free. And you get a certificate at the end basically stating that you completed the course. Definitely beneficial. Pros of renting. I did rent in college, so I do know some things, just not really as much as I do with owning a home. Pros of renting. You can move without a penalty. If you don't like, your apartment, you can play. I'm sure you could pay to leave if you needed to break your lease. Here, you're either going to, sell it or rent it out, but you're probably stuck with it. And then another pro I would say of renting is you don't have to worry about outside maintenance. You don't have to worry about who's going to cut the grass, who's going to shovel the snow, who's going to repair the roof, who's going to, fix my refrigerator that was here before I got here. So I guess that's a con of buying. Anything, far as me, anything that's inside of the condo, I have to repair. That's my responsibility. But outside they do take care of. But I know with homes, everything is you. You have to take care of it, make sure it's good, make sure it stays to par, make sure you shovel the snow, make sure you rake the grass. Luckily with a condo, I don't have to do that. So it's just different things, really. Like if you don't plan on staying in your current state for more than 5 years, I wouldn't recommend buying. You wouldn't see the end benefit of buying a home if you plan on moving around a lot, or you have different roommates, or you just aren't really, you don't save. Saving is definitely needed when buying a home, because like I said, you never know when something's going to need to be repaired, and that is your responsibility. Whereas renting, something breaks, you tell them and they fix it, and you don't have to save for them to fix it. So it just really just depends on your current stage in life, I guess. My current stage, I wanted to own a home. I wanted something in my name that when I make a monthly payment, it will go towards that home and not just towards somebody else's pocket. But it really just depends on how you see it and how you want to see it. So yeah, that's my Q&A. Like I said, if you do have more questions, just I guess hit the comments or just text me, DM me. I'm an open book. Like I said, I do want to keep some things private, but if you do want to know, you just want to be nosy, it's fine. So yeah, that was the second segment. So now time for 3.